Local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this effort to promote reading, education, and literacy in our community.
Mystery in medieval Europe will be the topic on Read About It tonight. Hi, I'm BJ Williams. Mary Ellen Cooper will tell us about her book, Keys to Deception. Susie Beasley will talk with Phil Taubert. Kids Corner will feature Shelley Ziegler Hill. We also have Doug Benton, Evelyn Davis, and Gary Rodriguez. Coming up, Mary Ellen Cooper.
The following public service program is brought to you by the Metropolitan Library System. And now, Read About It, with your host, BJ Williams.
At the last Oklahoma Writers Federation conference held here in Oklahoma City, I was able to talk with a number of the people who had come to the conference, and one of them was an Oklahoma writer by the name of Mary Ellen Cooper. She writes medieval mysteries. They are set in a really interesting time in Europe, and I think you will enjoy what she has to say, as well as what she had on. For the interview, she came dressed as a medieval lady. Enjoy. Mary Ellen, what inspired you to set a mystery in medieval Italy?
Well, I was reading a locksmith magazine, and people laughed when one lady said, I didn't know locksmiths had magazines. They're very glossy, nice, technical articles usually, but this one had the interior of a church in Rome dedicated to the patron saint of locksmiths. And in the body of the article, it mentioned that Jews were prohibited under penalty of death from becoming locksmiths. Well, my writer's brain immediately thought, oh, this is great conflict. What if a young lad learned locksmithing? He would always be afraid of being exposed and put to death. So that was my first idea.
Okay, but actually the locksmith in Key Deception is a young woman, isn't it?
Well, yes, but she's the employer of the Jewish lad. Mm-hmm. She's a widow who's been injured in an accident. And this lad, she befriends him, and before she knows it, her in-laws, who are devastated because her husband died, they take him in and practically adopt him. Well, she can't tell him then that he's Jewish. So the reason it's set in Bologna, Italy, is I met a professor, Maria Hopewell, and she told me that women in this brief period of time, my book's set in 1489, they had as much freedom. They could go to university, they could own their own businesses. It was more like the 20th century. Then it clamped down again, and women didn't have that freedom for centuries. Mm-hmm. So that little period of time when Bologna was at peace and women were more free, that's where I set my book.
Mm-hmm. Now you actually have a young lady who's a member of the court who wants to go to university. She wants to become a court artist.
Yes.
And I think there is another young woman there who is also a member of a guild. I found it interesting that when I first opened it up and it said she's a member of the guild, I thought, well, this is kind of interesting because I didn't know women could join the guilds.
Well, what was interesting to me to learn was that guilds were not like unions in a way. In school we're told guilds were unions. Well, yes, you paid your fee and you set your prices, but it was more like an extended family. It was a medieval way of Social Security. They helped one another, and you couldn't just arbitrarily decide to join a guild. You either married into it or you were born into it.
Okay, so you couldn't just come up and say, I decided I want to be a locksmith, here's my money, and then you were a locksmith.
Right.
Okay. Now, one of the mysteries in there is the disappearance of a lot of silver that turns out actually to have been a scam. Now, were there really scams like that going on?
Yes, I learned that at an SCA King's College, the Society of Creative Anachronism, dress in period clothes, and they study this. And it was sort of a Bards and Arts program. And this professor had taken slides. She showed slides of bells all over Europe, England, and Russia. And in her talk, she casually mentioned they melted a lot of those bells down during World War II, expecting to find the silver that was collected. Because it was in their records, there was no silver in the bells. So again, my writer's imagination said, all right, I'll work this con man into my story.
Well, that sounds great, but there was a lot more going on than just a con man trying to get all the silver in Bologna, right?
Yes.
Because you have a lot of mention there, although the city is at peace at the time, obviously the people, and that includes the Duke, who is running the city, are concerned that something terrible might just happen any minute now.
For years, there was always one little duke or one little prince trying to take over the other. And if that wasn't going on, then they're worried about the French trying to invade Italy. So most of that era was in turmoil. I kind of liked the idea that they were at peace during the setting of my book.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you plan to have your locksmith and her apprentice involved in more mysteries down the road?
Oh, yes. I have about a third of the second book finished, and Avisa is suspected of murder in the second one.
Oh, dear.
So she'll have to find the killer.
Oh, my goodness. Well, now, you said you got this idea and from going to the Society for Creative Anachronism, and did you have to do a lot of research to sort of fill in all the blank spots in that?
Oh, yes. I read a lot of books. I found the library is really more helpful than the internet, although I use the internet. But most of the original sources, of course, are going to be in Italian, since I don't read Italian. But I do have a professor, Michael Zincani, in Dallas, who is a native of Bologna. And in the next book, I will have his name in the dedication, because he's been very helpful.
Mm-hmm. So he's been pointing out sources to you and that sort of thing?
Right.
And now, since you built part of the story around a Jew, I guess you had to really look into church history and the attitude not only of the people but of the church and of the ruling classes towards Jews. And
I was, well, I think like most people in Oklahoma, you don't realize the persecution they had in Europe for years. It wasn't just World War II. It was for hundreds of years before then. It really makes you feel sorry for them.
Well, there was one incident in there when the people realized the silver was stolen. Their immediate thought was it must be the Jews.
Yes.
And but your young apprentice was able to avert disaster, sort of.
Right.
So now in the next one, you've got Avisa being threatened with murder. Do we hear any more about the artist? Now, I know she went off to the court of Spain, but she struck me as a rather interesting character.
Yes, she's going to reemerge. I actually have plans for 3 books in this, and she will reemerge, and so will Bernardo. And there'll be a couple of new characters introduced, because it's fun to expand and learn. Yeah.
Now, do you find your characters telling you that they're going to come back for the next book? I'm sorry, you can't write me out of this.
Sort of.
Or did any of them object to what you tried to have them do in Key Deception?
No, I felt pretty comfortable that I was in the character with the character's intentions, where it would be reasonable.
Now, I have noticed that you are dressed rather creatively, anachronistically yourself. Is this an Italian Renaissance costume?
Yes, Simplicity Patterns furnished it, but it's pretty authentic. My daughter made this. Sleeves were a big thing. Jewelry was a big thing. I even have a poison ring.
Oh, my.
Yes. And hair was a big thing, so I'm wearing a wig. They sometimes patted their braids to reach their waist or even the floor.
Oh,
Very flamboyant.
So wigs are not a 20th century invention.
Oh, no. They called it false hair.
False hair. Okay. Well, I want to thank you very much for being with us. And now, can you tell us the title of the next book so we can be looking out for it?
Yes, it's Key. Oh dear! Now that you've asked me, I'm blank. I'm sorry.
We need to look for Mary Ellen Cooper, and it's got Key in the title, right? And in the meantime, Key Deception is the one to look for.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us. Mary Ellen Cooper, Keys of Deception. You can find it at your library and bookstore. Coming up next, we have Susie Beasley talking with Phil Taubert about a video I think you'll find very interesting.
Phil, what can you tell us about this video, Stories Alive, with Tony Simmons? Well, these are African and African American folk tales. There are three in a 30-minute period, so they're about 10 minutes apiece. And you get three folk tales told by Terry Simmons. She's a very educated lady who has a degree in library science as well as in drama and in speech. And she puts a lot of action and a lot of pizzazz in the stories that she tells. And she has children all around her in the setting as she's telling these three stories, and puts a lot of energy and gets the children involved in the stories. I think they would have appeal to children as well as adults because it's a good family type of thing. But she does three different stories in there. One about Brer Rabbit and Brer Tiger, and they're trying to figure out some clever ways to get pears out of a pear tree. And then there's a story about who's going to be the king, and some clever little ways of going about seeing who's most worthy to be the king. And then the last story is about where stories came from.
Right.
And it involves going to outer space, basically looking for stories that have been stored in one place and bringing them back to Earth.
Now that was kind of like an Anansi, the spider.
Yeah, the spider, exactly. Yes.
So what are some of the other uses of this video?
Well, I think that it would be very helpful for African and African American heritage events. We're about to celebrate the Kwanzaa season right now in the month of December, and I think that this would go quite well with Kwanzaa celebration, because you could show one or all three of those stories in a celebration type thing, and I think anyone watching that would feel that sense of celebration.
And it is licensed for public performance.
Absolutely, it sure is.
So what other materials do we have in our library system that could be used during Kwanzaa?
We have a number of things. I even brought some along with me that show crafts, how to do crafts for Kwanzaa, how to celebrate Kwanzaa, all of the symbols of the Kwanzaa, and there's even videotapes. There are lots of those in the library system also that tell about the different symbols of Kwanzaa and what people do to celebrate that holiday season.
And that starts December the 26th through January the 2nd, I believe.
Yes.
So this particular video is available at the library.
Yes.
And you never know, some local video stores, but Tony Simmons is from, I believe, Texas.
Yes.
And this particular video, Stories Alive, it came out in 99?
The year 1999. Yes.
Well, Phil, we really appreciate you coming and sharing with us Stories Alive, this really unique video by Tony Simmons of Texas, African and African American folk tales. And this is available at your local library. And we'll see you next time, Phil. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil and Susie. When we come back, I'll have a couple of books just for you.
There are millions of websites on the internet, more than 800 million web pages, and thousands of search engines. It's easy to get lost unless you start at metrolibrary.org. Renew your books, browse the catalog, search a database, check movie listings, or even your horoscope. At metrolibrary.org, you'll find the perfect place to start your web journey. A family-friendly site redesigned to meet your needs. Sure, you could cruise the other 799 million web pages, but why?
I can remember the days when a home office consisted of a small box and a cleared space on the dining room table. When all you were doing was paying your bills or writing letters to friends and relatives, you really didn't need much space. These days, an awful lot of us have at least a personal computer that often comes with a printer. There are fax machines and that sort of stuff. There are also a number of people who are now working exclusively out of their homes. And the big question comes, where do you put all of that stuff where it's convenient to use and not in anybody else's way? Well, this wonderful book, At Work at Home, Design Ideas for Your Home Workspace by Neil Zimmerman, is something that will help you make decisions about all of these things. Lots of inspiration for planning your very own home office, whether it's a corner of the living room or a purpose-built suite. The offices pictured here range from work-at-home spaces that cater to client meetings to just enough office space to take care of that bill paying and menu planning. As you cruise through the book, you'll learn about lighting, storage, furniture placement, etc. Everything from separate buildings to computer stations in hallways and closets is included. It is obviously photo heavy. Most of it is indeed photographs of people's various responses to what to do with that personal computer, how to keep it convenient and yet safe. A real inspirational book. It's not going to tell you how to do anything, but it is certainly going to give you lots lots of inspiration. You can take this book, walk through your house, and I guarantee you can find a place to put your computer and your home office. If you want to do actual work out of your home, that might require just a little bit more effort on your part, but lots of ideas are included in this book as well. Now, the next book is sort of a trip down nostalgia lane, I guess. It's called The Forgotten Arts and Crafts, Skills from Bygone Days by John Seymour. This book will tell you how peat is dug, how you can make a rake, and how you can keep bees. This handsome book combines two best-selling classics, The Forgotten Arts and Forgotten Household Crafts. They are combined by the father of self-sufficiency, John Seymour, who is very dedicated to preserving all of these long-ago crafts and the worlds of traditional craftspeople, from blacksmith to beekeeper, wainwright to housewife. He celebrates their honest skills, many of which have disappeared from today's life. You'll be able to go back and find out how housekeepers in the 1800s were able to wash linen, how they kept kitchen and preserved food. Materials and workshops and tools are lovingly portrayed in this book. It's a really, as I said, it's a trip down nostalgia lane. For those of us who remember a little bit of this past, it is a look back at what we grew up with. For the rest of us, it is a reminder of how far we have come in the 20th century. I have just a brief moment to mention another book. If you haven't caught Lindsay Davis's Ode to a Banker, be sure and catch up on the latest of our very intrepid Roman Empire spy and private investigator. I'm sure you'll enjoy the trip. Coming up next, we have Kids Corner. Kelly Rhea and Heidi Johnson have some books just for kids.
Heidi Johnson has brought us some more interesting books, and I know you're going to like these. Heidi, tell us what you brought.
I brought several different series of books for vocational guidance for children.
Careers for Kids.
Careers for Kids, which I know it's never too early to start thinking about what you're going to do with the rest of your life.
Well, they like to play dress up, and they like to pretend, and so if they see someone delivering the mail, then they want to try. What's that feel like when I deliver the mail?
Right.
So you have a book like that?
Yeah, we have books here for small children that are maybe just starting to read or still reading with their parents' help. It tells you all about different careers, the importance of those careers within the community, different education you need to perform those jobs, different aspects of the jobs.
Now, these books are the we need, like for instance, mail carriers. We need librarians. We need custodians. These are good. So are there more beyond this little series?
It's still an ongoing series. There will be still some more coming out.
Great.
But that's all in this particular series right now. Now, I also brought two other series along, which are for just a little bit older children. Mm-hmm. They're about third, fourth grade, depending on the reading level of each individual child. These here, one series is called Community Helpers. Mm-hmm. Explains the importance of certain jobs to the community as a whole, like police officers. Where would we be if we didn't have any police officers? Different jobs police officers perform. Some of them are on horses, some of them are in cars, some of them walk the streets.
Exactly.
So it tells you different aspects, the kind of schooling, again, that you need to get to pursue certain careers.
So you could find out that about police officers. There's one on dentists.
Dentists, teachers, doctors, firefighters. There are really quite a few. There is a listing of the series in the back, and it's still an ongoing series.
Wonderful.
So there should be a lot more coming out talking about other jobs that haven't been published so far.
Those are really informative. Now, what's this you have? I like computers. What can I be?
Now, this one is not looking at a specific job to start with. It looks like you're interested in a certain field, like you're really good with animals or you're good with computers. It tells you the different jobs available in that field of study, what these people do, the different jobs they do,
right.
How they interrelate.
So if I like to write, what else? What can I do?
What can you do?
If I like to draw,
what kind of possibilities are out there for you.
Thank you so much for bringing this in. These are so wonderful.
Another great thing about these, they also have websites listed in the back.
Great.
Where you can look up for more information on the particular jobs.
There you go. So you can find these wonderful books or look up the websites at your local library, or you can find the books at your favorite bookstore.
Thanks, Kelly and Heidi. Remember, you can find all kinds of books about what you'd like to be when you're a grown-up at your library. And coming up next, we have Doug Benton, who's known far and wide for not only working at the Metropolitan Library System, but writing an outrageous column for the Oklahoma Gazette. And he will be talking with Evelyn Davis of the Downtown Library about something I'm sure that you will find utterly fascinating.
For those few viewers who do not know our fearsomely literate guest with the library system, Doug Benton, he is going to be presenting a book called Writing with Hitchcock. Who is the writer this book refers to, and how did he break into show business?
The writer is John Michael Hayes, not a well-known name, but during the Second World War he was working with USO shows. After the war he became a radio writer whose specialty was suspense plays, and because he was very prolific, he could write a radio play in one day. He churned out thousands of scripts for varying radio programs, and so that was his in into show business, was through radio.
How did that mesh with what Hitchcock did best?
That's good. Hayes' specialty was dialogue, and he was very good at writing the kind of dialogue that says one thing on the surface but says something else underneath. And Hitchcock always did the same thing with his visuals.
Yes.
You know, he would show you something, and it helped tell the story, but it also helped to tell other things at the same time. So the two of them worked very well together.
So they could both do undercurrents.
Right.
Okay. Which films did Hayes write?
Hayes began with Rear Window, which is an adaptation of a story by Cornell Woolrich, and Rear Window is one of the Hitchcock classics. I think almost everybody agrees with that. He went on then to write To Catch a Thief, which was very lightweight, kind of frothy. I don't particularly like it, personally. He wrote The Trouble with Harry, which was the only one of the 4 films he wrote with Hitchcock that was a flop at the box office, because it was an out-and-out black comedy. There's no crime, there's very little suspense in it. It's just a body that keeps showing up, and everybody keeps trying to move from one place to another. And then finally, the 4th film they worked on together was the remake of The Man Who Knew Too Much. This was one that starred James Stewart and Doris Day.
Okay. What was unique about their working relationship, and what brought it to an end?
Well, the thing that was unique was, since Hitchcock came to America in 1940, I think, and made Rebecca, he did not work with the same writer over and over and over again. He had in England. He did not do that in America. And Hayes wrote 4 films consecutively for Hitchcock, which nobody else did. After their relationship broke up, Hitchcock worked with a couple of writers more than once, but never on 2 consecutive films. The reason they broke up was because, well, Hitchcock had something of an ego, and to put it mildly, and he did not like anybody who worked for him crossing him in any way. And Hitchcock had hired a man named Angus MacPhail, whom he had known in London many years before, and wanted to give him screenplay credit on The Man Who Knew Too Much. Hayes objected, they argued over it, and so the relationship fell apart.
So I assume they did not, considering everything, get back together again?
They never did. Hayes had said, you know, if he would just call me up and say, hey, I haven't seen that ugly Irish face of yours in a while, they could have worked together, but that's not the kind of thing that Hitch would have done.
Fortunes of War.
Right.
Doug, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Doug and Evelyn. When we come back, I'll be talking with local computer systems analyst Gary Rodriguez.
There are millions of websites on the internet, more than 800 million web pages, and thousands of search engines. It's easy to get lost unless you start at metrolibrary.org. Renew your books, browse the catalog, search a database, check movie listings, or even your horoscope. At metrolibrary.org, you'll find the perfect place to start your web journey, a family-friendly site redesigned to meet your needs. Sure, you could cruise the other 799 million web pages, but why?
Okay, Gary, you have actually brought us several books this time, haven't you?
Yes, I did. I brought a set of books. You know, Stephen Ambrose right now is kind of the hot author. Everybody's talking about Band of Brothers. They just had the HBO special, and he's writing about the World War II, and he's writing in such a way it's very personal. You know, he takes like a group of people or a person and through their experience in World War II. Well, Cornelius Ryan was really the first one to do that. And it's kind of funny because the first book he wrote was a year after I was born, you know.
Oh, dear.
So in 1959, he wrote The Longest Day. Okay, a movie got made out of that, obviously, you know, down the road. But he also wrote The Last Battle, and he also wrote A Bridge Too Far, which a lot of people know about those three books from the movies.
Right.
But think about it. In 1959, he was only, 14 years after the war was over. So he was able to talk to direct participants in it. And of course, Stephen Ambrose, now he's got 60 years, and a lot of stuff's been declassified, and he's able to get more information than what Cornelius Ryan was able to get. And in both cases, they were going to, they're both planning more books. You know, I think the next one, Ambrose, there's rumors out that he's going to do one on history of the Pacific War.
Oh my, he's going to change theaters.
Yeah, he's going to change theaters. It's very interesting, obviously. Well, Cornelius Ryan actually was going to write 5 books. Well, he ended up getting prostate cancer and passed away when he got through with A Bridge Too Far. And he and his wife kind of cooperated and finished it up. And then there's actually a book out called A Private Battle about his fight with cancer. So he's a fascinating book, and he was kind of the guy that got me hooked on reading about World War II, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, when you hit that special author for the first time, there's something really exciting that happens, isn't there?
Yeah, he just kind of tripped my trigger, so to speak, and I just read all of the different books I could about it. So, but these are good books for just the basic student of World War II. Want to know what it's all about? Specifically, the European campaign, of course, but. It's fascinating books.
Well, and as you commented, even those do have a personal touch. I mean, he's letting you see the action through the eyes of someone who was actually there, and I think you really need that because otherwise you forget people actually get killed and harmed in battle.
That's right. That's right. But anyhow, the books we're talking about are in order was The Longest Day, The Last Battle, and A Bridge Too Far by Cornelius Ryan.
Thanks, Gary. Cornelius Ryan's books are not the only ones that you can find at the library. We have information on just about any topic that you can think of. Not only do we have it in books, we have newspapers, magazines, compact disc, video and audio tapes. We have a lot of classic movies on VHS and also a lot of how-to materials as well. You can find out about all of these materials either by dropping by any of our libraries throughout Oklahoma County, or you can visit us on the web at www.metrolibrary.org. We have a list of every single material we've got available for checkout. You can put it on reserve and find it waiting for you at your favorite library. While you're there on the website, you might as well find out where all of the libraries are and when they're open and what kind of programs are available. We have children's story times, we have programs on how to use the internet. All sorts of things are available for both children and adults. Check us out and be sure and join us again next time.
local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this effort to promote reading, education, and literacy in our community.
There are millions of websites on the internet, more than 800 million web pages, and thousands of search engines. It's easy to get lost unless you start at metrolibrary.org. Renew your books, browse the catalog, search a database, check movie listings, or even your horoscope. At metrolibrary.org, you'll find the perfect place to start your web journey. A family-friendly site redesigned to meet your needs. Sure, you could cruise the other side